Republicans search for meaning in the political minority as they try to beat a path out of the political wilderness. An increasing number of Republican leaders seem to be trying to compensate for their relative lack of power at home by flexing their muscles abroad. Republicans have been traveling to other countries to try to undermine the policies of the United States. You might call it anti-diplomacy. We first reported this phenomenon in June when Illinois Republican Congressman Mark Kirk bragged that on a trip to China, he had met with Chinese government officials and told them to not trust the American government on matters of the budget and the deficit.
One of the messages I had, because we need to build trust and confidence, and our number one creditor is that the budget numbers that the U.S. government have put forward should not be believed.
Don't believe the U.S. government, China. Congressman Mark Kirk's great idea for building trust and confidence is to tell China to definitely not trust us. Then a little over 2 weeks ago, Republican Senator Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma made an announcement. He said that he was going to go rogue overseas himself. He says that he plans on attending the UN Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen this December. And it's because he thinks that global warming is a hoax.
I'm going to go ahead and just announce now I'm going to go to Copenhagen. I think somebody has to be there, a one-man truth squad.
Senator Inhofe says the mission of his little one-man truth squad will be to tell other countries not to believe what the United States says when our government negotiates on climate change and carbon emissions. And, you know, when it was just Mark Kirk going to China to tell the Chinese not to trust us, that was weird. Then when it turned out to be Mark Kirk plus Jim Inhofe, when it happened twice, sort of seemed like it might be a coincidence. But when something like this happens 3 times, I think it's called a trend, which makes Republican Senator Jim DeMint of South Carolina officially the trend maker. Senator DeMint is now back from meeting with the de facto government of Honduras. It's a government that the United States does not recognize. Mr. DeMint called the meeting with the military government that ousted their president there, quote, very productive, adding, we saw a government working hard to follow the rule of law, uphold its constitution, and to protect democracy for the people of Honduras. Senator DeMint is referring to a government that ushered its country's democratically elected president out of the country in his pajamas. A government that until today allowed police and soldiers to break up public meetings, arrest people without warrants, and restrict the news media. Then today, remarkably, 3 more Republican members of Congress went to Honduras and visited with this government that we as a country supposedly do not recognize, thereby jumping on the go abroad to undermine American foreign policy, even though you're an American bandwagon. This creepy, creepy bandwagon. Joining us now is the Washington editor for The Nation magazine, Chris Hayes. Thanks for being here, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.
So help me understand the politics here. I am assuming that Jim DeMint does not want to be president of Honduras, but does he think that having his own personal foreign policy toward Honduras is going to help him become president of this country someday?
Well, I mean, I think the Honduras thing is a little sui generis because it's become this cause célèbre among the right wing. It's almost a matter of sort of hemispheric right wing solidarity to go support the military coup that's taken over the Honduran government. So I think that DeMint and particularly the Republicans, congressmen and women who are from South Florida, who are sort of the sort of right-wing Cuban exile milieu, there's a certain kind of, they're doing this for the cause aspect to it, and they're trying to essentially, I think, intimidate and embarrass the president, because what they want to do is push U.S. policy to the right and to recognize the Honduran government. James Inhofe has his own crazy reasons to go to Copenhagen because he considers himself a one-man truth squad, as he said, fighting the myth of global warming, and Mark Kirk is now going back to Honduras, so he seems like he's sort of trying to create a sideline in this sort of activity.
Wait, Mark Kirk is going to Honduras too?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh wow! This is when I reported on Mark Kirk in China, I thought this was a remarkable thing to know about Mark Kirk. We did a segment on the show. We talked to somebody about what effect this might have on those negotiations with China about budget and deficit and all those things in which he told the Chinese not to believe us. It seemed like it was a weird thing about him, but now it does seem like a trend. And do you think overall Republicans are doing this to try to affect U.S. policy, or do they reasonably expect to, or is it just a way to take shots at the president?
Well, No, I think it's both, right? I mean, they're trying to embarrass the president. They're trying to push things in the right direction. I should say, I'm not sure that actually Kirk is going now. I'm sort of scrambling through my mind.
Okay.
So they're trying to. What they're trying to do is push foreign policy in the direction they want. But really, what they're trying to do is embarrass the president. And they're trying to create an alternative. I mean, that is the kind of key political point from the perspective of the Republicans in Congress in domestic policy and also in foreign policy. It's not that they're really trying to play any kind of constructive role in forming policy, so much as at every single juncture they're trying to create the maximum amount of distance between them and the president, provide the clearest and starkest choice to voters for the upcoming midterms.
Well, I don't want to try to extrapolate the trend too far, Chris, but we did, and we just talked about this again on the show, we did see widespread celebration on the right for America not getting the Olympic bid. Yay, this international body said no to America, yay. It was sort of rooting against America's interests internationally. And we've got this sort of active attempt to undermine America's policy goals abroad with this anti-diplomacy. Do you think that there is a sort of a deliberate decision and strategy that connects these things, or should we just see them as outbursts?
Well, yeah, there is a deliberate strategy insofar as it's every sort of step that's taken is an opportunity to try to embarrass the president, essentially, right? And very crucial to the emerging sort of conservative right-wing narrative about Obama is that he thinks that, through his sheer force of personality, he's going to have other nations bend to his will. And so to whatever degree they can undermine him on the global stage is the degree to which they can kind of cut against whatever perceived global authority the president has. And that's very important because, A, I don't think they want him to be successful in reaching out in the kind of diplomatic fashion in the broad strategic sense that he's outlined, because it really cuts against this sort of very jingoistic, militaristic, go-it-alone foreign policy that's been the bedrock of the Republican Party and the conservative right for a very long time now. I just keep flashing back to the decorations at the RNC. Remember how they didn't put the word Republican anywhere in the hall and it just said country first everywhere? That's right.
Country first, yeah. Chris Hayes, Washington editor for The Nation magazine. It's always great to see you, Chris. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel.